He's the T-Rex of political talk. Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network.
Okay, in the first 5 minutes of the show, I said no guest today, but things are fluid here and change. Joyce Riley, a long-time Genesis host here on the network, she had a lady call into her show with the police raiding her house, even though she owned the property. And then it would happen right as Joyce was going off the air. So Joyce stayed on the line with the network. She's in outside Versailles, Missouri, but the network's in Minnesota. So the lady stayed on the line at Genesis as the police kicked down the door, as they came in, and as they hung up the phone. And I'm told this is a pretty shocking audio. It has never before been heard. And when I get ready at home, and I show up about 20 minutes before airtime, generally here, and when I came in, they ran up to me, the producer said, "We've been trying to call you. This whole thing happened about 40 minutes ago." And I just said, "Get me more facts, get me more details." So we're going to do that either at the bottom of the hour or next hour, only so I can talk to Joyce and find out, or talk to John, because some of this was on air, and find out what's going on. So that I can assess what's happening from my perspective. So I can talk about this from my perspective, and so I can gauge it. So we'll talk to Joyce, and we appreciate her calling us this information. All over the nation, this has been going on for 2 years as repossessions accelerate. People are now becoming homeless in massive numbers. I'm now seeing clean-cut families on the streets of Austin. And if they go to the shelters, the CPS is there, and in almost every case, takes your children. So if you become homeless, they will take your children. And then now all over the country, cities and states, New York, California, other places are announcing rent for homeless. They are arresting homeless. You can't sleep in an alley. You can't sleep on a park bench. You can't sleep in a tent on government land in a state park out of the way. They come and arrest you, and they take you to a FEMA paid-for facility. Hawaii, California, New York, and then they charge you rent. And they say, "Oh, no, you're not forced labor. We're just charging you rent, so you have to work." So all of this is being announced as I told you it would be. This is how they did it in Germany and Russia and China. It's always the same. I remember Michael Savage 4 or 5 years ago going, "Arrest anyone that disagrees with the war," because when you protest the war, you're a terrorist because you're aiding terrorists. And then I remember seeing the Deputy Attorney General of California in the Oakland Tribune saying the same thing. "We're banning protest in California against the war." This was in 2004, 1 year into it, and we're now 6+ years into it, because they're fighting al-Qaeda in Iraq, and when you protest the war, you're with al-Qaeda. And then Savage pushed for the Sedition Act and said arrest anybody. And then now notice Savage is banned from England, and they're arresting people in England that criticize the open borders. See, this is how it works, folks. The left takes the rights away, and the right takes the lefts away, and between that, everybody is slaves. And the globalists control the left and the right. But I'm digressing, ladies and gentlemen. I'm literally at information overload these days. You know, I promised to open the show up and take your calls. Randall, Wilson, Mike, Josh, George, others. And I'm going to do just that. I've been getting a lot of emails, and so is Jason Burmis, who does a show 9 to midnight here out of the InfoWars studios on Genesis, saying we're liars about the military and military contractors raping children under orders. So today, I've been saying the last few shows I do this, and I've just run out of time. Today, coming up later in the next hour, I'm going to do a news report on this. I'm going to play congressional hearings where Rumsfeld doesn't deny that DynCorp and Haliburton kidnapped children en masse. And I am going to go over Salon, New Yorker Magazine, ABC News, with the Army's own report about how the CIA ordered the jail guards, and of course they profiled them, they hired them, federal guards that had lost their jobs for raping people and abuse in prisons, sickos. You know, Jeffrey Dahmers that are smart enough to not just grab kids off the street, they're smart enough to get a badge. They're smart enough to get a uniform. You know, smart psychopaths. You take basic psychology, they'll teach you. The intelligent psychopaths, those that have a higher IQ and are more controlled, I guess the term is controlled psychopath, they want power. They want a badge. They want a gun. And they get them. And they take over almost every nation. And that's why the world is in slavery and darkness and pain, because good people lie on their fat butts and let psychos take over. Is it because good people are cowards? Is it because we're domesticated, we're lulled to sleep, we're taught to lay down and take it? I don't know what it is, but I'm not laying down and taking any of it from this dirtbag, rogue, illegitimate government. I'm done. And I don't care what the media says about me. I don't care what they make up about me. You know, if somebody we hire infiltrates us and tries to set us up criminally, that's on their heart and their soul. I didn't do anything wrong. You're a bunch of criminals. The government is criminal. It is illegitimate, period. Their crimes are so horrible, I can't even begin to try to explain it. And I'm just sick of the public. Large segments of it that have woken up to the government's lying and corrupt, but they buy into all the COINTELPRO bull to attack me, that I'm a Scientologist, or I work for the Vatican, or I work for Israel, and, you know, and then they'll mix all the lies together, which are just ridiculous. Instead of ever responding about real issues and spending time warning people about vaccines or open borders and the New World Order agenda or brain scanners going in airports, or how the public schools have been turned into brainwashing camps, or how the CPS is, I mean, you know, on the issue of children being abused by the state, it's come out, and it's even been in CNN, that 4,000 plus children come up missing every year that are in government custody in Florida alone, and they find them in Saudi Arabia, and they find them in other nations, and they find them in slave brothels, and they find them dead. And then it turns out that every major director of the CPS in Florida turns out to be a convicted pedophile. Well, of course, it's a pedophile guild. Who do you think the globalists hire to go out and kidnap Christian, mainly, that's who they target, children, and then ship them to slave camps? Remember, WorldNet Daily reporting on slave cruise lines where they have prostitutes and slave children on them, and Bill Clinton administration people being on them. You can't make this stuff up. I mean, every time I read this stuff, I can't believe what I'm even reading. Then I have congressional testimony on it, and I can't believe it. And I can't believe these people just sit up there with straight faces. These are killers, ladies and gentlemen. It's a religion to feed on us and abuse us. But you take the Texas Youth Commission, and, you know, it comes out that every major juvenile justice facility, including the CPS facilities, it's the same in Michigan, California, Florida. I mean, you see it everywhere. The same story. It's all federally run, all federally financed, all federal guidelines. Where they steal so many children, folks. They warehouse them and make little, you know, year-old babies live in drawers at CPS bureaucratic facilities with snot all over them. You know, they die, and they just take little dead bodies and, you know, say, oh, the parents, you know, did this to them, even though they'd had the kid for 2 weeks, you know, in the facility, not even feeding them, and they die. And then they go indict the parents after they kill them. And it turned out the Texas Youth Commission, en masse, was openly raping children and videotaping it, and that the parking lots were filled with judges and police and local pedophile rings that run most cities. Literally, it's a pedophile guild that runs everything. People talk about it's this group, it's that group. I'll tell you, it's a bunch of devil-worshiping pedophiles. You want to know who runs things? That's who runs things. devil worshippers. They like to sacrifice kids. What is that? It's the ultimate expression of attacking innocence, of being ruthless, of trying to burn out their souls, trying to prove how ruthless they are. And then I saw it in the news that they don't even mention the fact that they've set up a new state agency for child welfare, and that they supposedly set it up to counter what was going on in the state already. But then they took all the new funding that the legislature just funded, and they're saying they're going to put out task forces to steal more innocent people's children. See, that's back when CNN was reporting on that in Florida. I said, you watch, folks. They're going to come out and say we need more funding to stop what's happening with the abuse of children at government hands. And that's what they did. And then I had that article here in my stack. Oh, it doesn't matter. It's all over Texas News about, guys, just do a search on me about new state agency for child welfare in Texas. Just give me that. I had it here in the stack, and now it's not here. Because I wanted to, nothing about why they set up the agency. Nothing about the Texas Youth Commission and all the horrible things it did. It's all about how American and Texas parents are bad, and the state's got to go out and grab their children, when the state's 5 times more likely, in the Justice Department's own numbers, to abuse children than any other group. Again, the state is evil. The state is corrupt. The state has been fully taken over by criminals and degenerate scum at the higher levels. And now they're taking over the mid and low levels and getting all their people in place and telling us torture and secret arrest is good to sell everybody on a full-bore terror, a red terror in America.